Hello and welcome to a look at Magic Boy for the Amiga, a game that was released by Empire Software. In Magic Boy you play the role of a Magic Boy, a wizard's apprentice who is top of the class. And one day after the other students have gone home, he decides to do finish off some work. While rummaging through the wizard's cupboard, he accidentally ends up in the basement, where the wizard keeps all his magical creatures contained. Of course, the magical creatures escape, and Magic Boy now has to capture them all before the wizard returns the next morning, which is a bit of a daunting task. The game consists of four roles, each with 8 levels that has to be completed, and they are completed by capturing all the escaped monsters. If you look down in the bottom middle of the screen, you can see there are 2 rows which can contain monsters, or monster housing even, and any housing that is lit up indicates a monster that needs to be captured. Once captured, you can throw them into their homes in the basement, and once all slots are filled up and there's no more lights, you will complete the current level. Obviously it wouldn't be it would be too easy if you could just capture them and be done with it. If you take too long to finish off the level, they will start escaping and they will go back to the location where you initially caught them, so basically you'll end up having to backtrack in order to recapture the monsters, and some of them can be quite difficult to recapture if you have to come from the opposite direction of where you started from. In order to capture the monsters, you have to stun them with whatever spell you are currently having in your wand. You have a basic straight short range shot, but you can find various upgrades that causes your wand to release shots in different directions and with different power, and some of them will go through obstacles and hit anything in a straight line and all that kind of stuff. And once they are stunned, you can walk onto them and capture them, and then you press down in your controller in order to drop them down the basement. Most of the monsters will just either stand still or jump about, and if you smack into them, you can possibly imagine that it will cost you a life. But later on, some of the monsters will start shooting at you, which of course is rather unfortunate if you get hit. The various different levels have various different mechanics, and you are introduced to mechanics a bit at a time. On these levels, for instance, we have icy squares, which of course will cause you to slide, and then we have the conveyor belt, which will move Magic Boy in a certain direction when he runs onto them. And later on we will bump into springs, which can be used to jump higher, and pistons, which will knock Magic Boy up in the air in case he walks over them. And of course they are usually connected in a straight line with other pistons, so you can lose quite a bit of progress by hitting a piston, so you get knocked up and knocked up and knocked up even continuously. As you progress, the levels will become more and more devious, and you will definitely have to learn the levels in order to have any chance of progression. Looking at the graphical side of the game, I think the game looks very good for this type of game, and the use of colors is surprisingly decent, considering this is not an AGA game. It is very, very bright, and the color choices and use reminds me a touch of Rainbow Islands, even though Rainbow Islands by and large is much more bright, but the same quality of use of colors, I would argue. The sound design, the music is very cutesy, but quite enjoyable, even though it repeats relatively quickly. But there is, I don't know whether it's just me, but to me it definitely sounds like there's a slight coarseness to the music, not actual distortion, but something close to a slight distortion. The sound effects are very enjoyable. I particularly like the sound effect of throwing a monster into the basement. It has a very distinct, enjoyable little sound to it, and overall the sound design is very good. Except for that, as I mentioned, maybe it's just me, but it definitely sounds like there's a slight distortion to the music. Of course, the gameplay, the paramount thing in any game. Relevant of graphics and sound. If the gameplay is not enjoyable, then you don't have much of a game. As soon as the graphics and sound bores you. It is fairly obvious, I think, that this game is a platformer, but it's also slightly more than that. It is a light puzzle platformer, meaning that certain stretches of certain parts of the levels have to be done in a certain order in order to progress. And the puzzle element is working those kind of things out. The levels by and large are straightforward, and it doesn't take long to work out just exactly what it is you need to do in order to progress. And one thing I personally found about this game that I fully enjoy is that the game will probably smack you in the face a few times, but depending on your skill level as a player, it shouldn't smack you in the face more than once or twice per trouble spot, because the game is static, meaning that nothing changes, there's no random factors. Even the bonuses you get for destroying bonus blocks and defeating monsters remain the same. So once you have learned how to navigate a certain area, you should be able to navigate that certain area again, because nothing changes. And that means that when you play this game, you will progress a little bit every single time you're playing, and that is something I personally enjoy quite a bit. I don't mind big games when you get a feeling of constant progressing. It is more games where you are progressing and suddenly out of nowhere you just get one shot by some bullshit mechanic. Excuse my language, but of what I've experienced with this game so far, there is no such things present. Of course, you will bump into areas where you didn't know an enemy was there and you lose a life by bumping into it, but next time you will know that enemy is there, and it should be possible to learn how to get around or prepare for it or whatever in order to get past it and get it captured and progress further in the game. The controls can seem a bit floaty at times, but it is not an issue I found to be a major thing. It's not something that prevented me from getting used to very quickly and make some steady progress. Mileage may vary, of course, and enjoyment and patience and all that kind of stuff can definitely be a factor in your desire to carrying on. One thing that should be noted is if you lose a life on a level, you will restart that level completely, which I know is a thing that certain people find extremely frustrating and daunting. Overall though, despite the minor flaws this game has, despite the fact that certain people has called it extremely generic and extremely bland, I found it fun enough to have a desire to try and actually master it. On that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.